Booking keynote speakers overseas. It's a thrill. It's exciting. You have an event that's in a foreign country and you want to provide everything that you normally provide for all of your attendees, including your keynote speaker. A couple of very important critical things to think about when you're booking a keynote speaker overseas. One, the location. Is it in North America, meaning Canada, Mexico, or even the Caribbean, which has the location be more proximate to where most of the speakers that you as meeting planners are booking? Or is it in Europe, in Asia, in the Pacific Rim, if you will, South America, or even Africa? The location of the event will determine if you want to source your speaker from a local source, meaning a speaker that's based in that country or that continent or a neighboring country, and there's advantages to that. Or are you looking to bring in a speaker that you've worked with and that is important for your messaging and your attendees, that is from your own country, in this case, United States, North America, and what will it take to get them overseas? So first of all, know that speakers leaving North America and going overseas, the fee is going to be different. Typically, it can be 25 to even 50% more than their normal list fee, as well as the travel. It's either going to be business or first class. Speakers have a long flight. You want them to be fresh and prepared. So keep in mind, the fee is going to be an increased fee, and the travel is going to be required to be probably business, if not first class. In addition, most speakers will request a minimum of 2, if not 3 nights lodging. Because of the long travel and the time it takes and the time zone changes, you want to be receiving them at this site in enough time for them to be rested and in a place and in a physical and mental position to be able to deliver that grand slam home run, that fully effective speech 100% with not being distracted or impacted negatively by the travel. Visas, fees, payments, these can get not complicated, but can require a little bit more attention to detail. If you're an organization in North America, an American organization that's hiring an American speaker or a speaker that's based in America, it's a transaction as if you would be booking them in any city: Chicago, Boston, San Diego, Denver, Miami, you name it. However, if it's a speaker that's overseas, you have to look into the speaker's payment situation and what local taxes might be required to pay. So as you work with your keynote curator in dialing in the contract and everything and the offer, make sure that it's understood up front about, are there any additional taxes, tariffs, or other requirements for a speaker who might not be originating from that country, but nor from North America, that will require a special visa, an additional type of tax or something, so that there's no surprises, right? In addition, the tech check, while your AV team is going to be on top of it with all the plugs and the bells and whistles of the technology that needs to be involved, make sure that the speaker or your tech team has the power plugs that correspond to the country that you're in. It sounds like a small matter, but it can be a big difference when you're running out of power and a file needs to be downloaded or uploaded, or a laptop or an iPad or a phone needs to be connected and we've lost juice. Again, sounds like a small thing, but it can be a big deal. Overall, the messaging, the core ideas that you want your keynote speaker to impart are critical as always, but they become more amplified overseas because there's so much excitement and so much distraction around the location. So you want to have that pre-event call with your client and get them oriented as to why you chose the site, what's the thinking behind it, how it relates to the event, how you're using the location in your excursions, in your off-site activities, and how you're weaving in the culture of that location so that the speaker has a full, clear picture when they deliver their keynote, and they might refer to it or not, but that it's in their body of work and it's taken into consideration in their preparation. It's just more information to empower them and to have a deeper understanding of what you're doing for your attendees and why you're bringing them in. You also want to make sure that you're doing this with enough time in advance. I cannot bang that drum enough. When you're dealing with overseas bookings, you're taking time off of their calendar, and availability is going to more often than not be a challenge. So the earlier out you are, the greater chance you're going to have to get your first choice. So I encourage you to do it early. Do it meaning the process of looking at your speaker and having a backup. If the first one doesn't come in, is there a second or a third one? And they're all great choices. There might be one reason why the group, your committee, or an executive chose somebody, but have the availability and the opportunity to select somebody if between the time it was reviewed, the proposal was reviewed, the options were considered, the offer was made that they were available, and then, they might still be available, but they have another booking either on the heels of, leaving to go to the event or right after the event, and the travel just won't organize it. So that's a key piece. Of course, you want to have a speaker who has had international experience, meaning they've dealt with customs, they've dealt with immigration, they know how to move themselves through. It's not a deal breaker because all speakers love what they do. They love to travel and they love to move around the world, that is. However, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is the passport. Not only does the passport need to be valid, but you cannot travel overseas with a passport that will expire within 6 months of your return date, not just the departure date, but your return date. So the passport that they're traveling on has to have ample expiry range, if you will. I don't know if that's a phrase, but it has to have ample time left on it before it expires, and specifically up to 6 months prior, so that there's no problems, because that will be a stop. That will be a stop on the departure. They will not be able to get out of the airport on the North American side, on the American side. So just going over a couple of things. You want to dial in your speaker as to why you chose the area, the location, how come it's important, what you're doing to tie in the location to your events, your excursions, the messaging, the theme itself. And if it's just basically we want to treat them, we want to it's a reward, then that's great. That doesn't have to be a huge elaborate very complex reason as to why. It could be because people have been asking for that location for years. You also want to make sure that the AV team is in touch with all the technical aspects as always, but more so specifically the speaker and the AV team with the plugs and the adapters. Again, I say it sounds like a small thing, but it's not. You want to make sure about the travel, the calendar, the availability, because these are things that as you get closer to the date and you still haven't made your choice and made your selection and gone to contract, availability can become an issue because international travel takes more time off the calendar. And that's why the fee can be 25, even 50, even sometimes more, depending if it's Asia or if it's, a long flight across the world to Australia. That's going to impact the fee. And then, of course, your passport. Make sure all the documentation is in order and check out if there's any need for payment of work tariff or any types of work taxes that come into play depending on where your speaker's from. These are things that if you anticipate and keep them in mind as you start the process from the location to building out your agenda, are going to take away any of the stress, any of the unpredictable kind of moments where you'll get blindsided by something. I've been there. I've traveled to every continent in the world for speaking events, and I know that these things come up. So please, you're going to have to, make sure that your keynote curator is in tune with you and the speaker, making sure that all those things come into play. The fun, cool, thrilling, emotional, exciting thing about booking a keynote speaker overseas is that there is an extra buzz, there is an extra spark of life to the event. So when you bring that keynote speaker overseas, just keep all those things in mind that you would for a speaker that you would book in your home country. However, add into it the passport, validation, and expiration dates, the fees that are going to be a little bit more for the keynote and for the travel. Get ahead of the game as far as availability and booking them goes. You want to make sure that they're aware of why you chose the location, any excursions and culture that's going to be built into the event. And that, you're on point with the messaging and all the other considerations you would have when you hire a speaker for your home country. It's just that overseas, you're not the same as you are working at home, where you have access to all of the tools and tricks of your trade at an arm's length reach. So do it. It's fun. Book your keynote speakers overseas, but keep those ideas in mind. We appreciate you being with us today at Keynote Curators Live. I'm Seth Deckman. I'm the founder and owner of the Keynote Curators. I'm your keynote curator for any event, anywhere in the world, on any topic. So join us every Wednesday around noon Eastern for these live sessions where we speak directly to event planners, meeting planners, conference planners, event marketers, event producers, where we dial into the most important themes and topics for you to produce those Grand Slam home run events with confidence and ease. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time.